Hello, welcome back to my video. Now this video is suitable for P5 and P6 students. Now most of the questions here are suitable for P5 except for question 1. For the P6 students, if you have not covered man's impact on the environment, question 1 may not be easy for you, but if you use some common sense, I'm sure you can still get the answer. Same thing for the P5, just try it for fun. Let's get started then. Now, of course, if you do not have the questions, don't worry. Just pause the video before I start the explanation. Try on your own, at least in your head. Get an answer out, then play the video to get the answer. Let's get started. Plant B grows well in area with clean air. The diagram shows plant B growing near a factory which gives out polluted gases. This question is from the topic called Man's Impact on the Environment. Alright, it's about pollution here. Now, when you look at such questions, it's always important to look at the map as well as the key or the legend. Sometimes they call this the legend. This tells you that these dots, all these dots here represent plant B. So you can see from the picture here, on this side you have lots of plant B. This side, no plant B at all. In other words, the polluted gases must be unpleasant to plant B or killing plant B. So all this side here there must be lots of polluted gases here that are not allowing plant B to grow well. So how could the gases that comes out from the factory get to this side? The wind must have blown them over. Therefore, this must have been the wind direction. Next question. Which statement is correct about mushroom and the fern? So this question is about the reproduction of non-flowering plants. Now ferns and mushrooms, these are both non-flowering plants and they both reproduce from spores, which is correct. They both reproduce from spores. However, let's take a look at the rest to make sure we are correct. Now, some of you might have chosen question 3, might have chosen question 3. You think both are non-flowering plants. The problem with question 3 is the word plants. Alright? Mushroom is a fungi. It is not a plant. So 3 is not the answer. Now, some might have chosen answer 4 because you think that, oh, mushroom is a fungi. Fungi is not a plant. Fungi cannot make food. That is true. However, fern is a plant. Fern can make food on its own using light energy. So then 4 is wrong. Or some of you may only know that the only fern you know is the bird nest fern, and somehow you might think that bird nest fern only grow on trees, or you might have seen mushroom pictures that are on trees, and you think that's the case. That's not true, okay? You can find ferns and mushrooms in different places. Answer for question 2 is 2. Next page. Question 3 and 4 will be about magnets. Question 3 about magnets. Question 4 here will be about forces. Linda had a bar magnet. She placed a pin at each point, X, Y, and Z. She replaced each pin with a heavier pin until she found the heaviest pin that could be attached without dropping. So she must be trying to find out which pole of the magnet is the strongest. So here you notice this pin is at 5 grams, this pin is at 5 grams, this one is at 2 grams. Which of the following can be concluded from the results? So we know the concept here, the science concept is the magnet is strongest at the poles. And where are the poles? This will be the pole. This will be the other pole. Which one is north, which one is south? I have no idea, but they are the poles. They are always at the two ends of a bar magnet. So, is it a north pole at X? I don't know. Is it a north pole? It could be a south pole, but let's hold on for a moment. The pin is a magnetic material, definitely. That's why the pin could be attracted to the magnet. So B is definitely correct. The magnetic force at Y is weaker than the magnetic force at Z. Definitely correct. That's why Y can only attract a pin of mass of 2 grams. It's correct. I know that B and C is definitely correct. Okay, number 3 is definitely correct. But how about A? A is specific about there's a north pole. I have no idea whether this is a north or south pole unless I bring a compass near to it, alright, and point to a certain direction, you know. Otherwise, I won't know is it a north or south pole. So this is unclear. So I cannot say for sure that this is a conclusion I can draw from this. So A cannot be true. It may be, but it cannot be 100% true. So answer is 3. I know these two are definitely correct. Question 4 is about, I think, something about elastic spring force. I see spring, and the answer here I talk about length and stuff. In the setup here, the bulb will light up. Also about electricity, something about electrical energy as well. Bulb will light up if the parcel had a mass of 20 kilograms or more. So there's a circuit here. There's a battery, and these are two metal, I suppose they're metal contacts. And there's a gap here, which means this is an open circuit, so the bulb is not lit. But if there's a 20 kilogram mass here, then this will create a force that will press down. Okay, then this, remember this weight is a force, right? And that will press down on this, and these two contacts will touch, closing the circuit, allowing current to flow. So how can the setup be changed so the bulb will light up if the parcel has a lower mass of 15 grams? You want the spring to be less stiff. So if a spring is more flexible, it can be easily compressed, then an object with less mass can then press down this. So I definitely won't use stronger springs. This is the direct opposite of what I just said. I want more flexible spring, weaker spring. I know this is wrong. Longer spring of the same type will increase the distance between these two contacts, making it even harder for them to touch each other. Definitely longer springs will be wrong. Shorter springs will be correct, but not longer. Increase the length of the contact is possible if the contacts are longer, meaning that they are nearer to each other. Imagine I have these two red wires contacts to be nearer. So even using a lower mass parcel that press down it gently and lightly and move it only a little bit, they can still touch. This is definitely possible. Increasing batteries wouldn't make this light up if these two contacts can never touch. Okay, so this doesn't help. Answer is 2. So question 4 is on electrical system. The P5 students may not be able to do this until you learn this in semester 2. Question 5. This shows a process R that takes place in the life cycle of a coconut plant. So something is growing out. Okay, this is a former PSLE question. A fruit will contain a seed. Remember, fruit comes from flowering plants. After pollination, there's fertilization, then there will be seed dispersal, and then they will have germination. This process where the seed in the fruit start to grow is called germination. Name the process, just name it, germination. State all the conditions needed for germination, process R, to take place. Well, the conditions there must be warmth, or some of you would say there must be at the right temperature. Both will be accepted. There has to be oxygen. Try not to use air because air is a mixture of gases, where oxygen is what the germinating seed needs. And it needs water. So like your science teacher would have taught you to remember it using the acronym WOW, okay? Next, diagram here shows some parts of the coconut fruit. When you see words like this, fibrous husks, this tells you it's something about dispersal. It traps air. This traps air. Solid P, this one, serves as an important function in process R. R is germination, and this is a fleshy solid. Why this function is important before structure J? Let's see what is J. J looks like leaf to me. It looks like leaves. And the leaves have a function which is to trap light. For what purpose? To make food. If a plant starts to have its own leaves, it can start to make its own food. But what happens before that? Before that, it cannot make its own food. It must have its own store of food. So this fleshy part here, right, is actually what you call the seed leaf. And this contains the food that the germinating seed needs, the young plant needs at first, before there were leaves. Why is it important before this? So, the growing young plant needs food before it develops leaves to make its own food. Right? The growing young plant needs food before it develops leaves to make its own food. Explain how a characteristic of the coconut fruit helps with the dispersal. So you can, they just want one characteristic, okay? But they actually give you two possible answers. Empty space means it contains air and that helps to float. Or fibrous husk traps air and helps it to float. So we can talk about this. Now this part, okay, be careful, don't lose marks. They ask you to explain the characteristics. So it's not enough to just say it has fibrous husk, full stop, you will get 0. It's not enough to say it has an empty space, you get 0. Because when you just simply say it has fibrous husk, for example, you just write, it has a fibrous husk. You will get 0 for this because there's no explanation. You are simply copying down whatever you saw here. You got to explain it. So it has a fibrous husk that traps air that allow it to float on water. Okay, so it has a fibrous husk that traps air, which allows it to float, on water. And then this talks about the dispersal. So you notice the answer here has explanation, which is the trapping air, allowing to float. Alright, and the dispersal, which is on water. And you need to write this to get your full 1 mark. Let's go to the last question. This is again another PSLE question from the previous year. Alice and Beatrice were traveling in an air-conditioned car. Both were wearing the same type of spectacles. Alice put her hands over her spectacles like this. Hands over her spectacles, but Beatrice did not. Now, a hand has a certain temperature, right? Body temperature about 36 degrees Celsius, thereabout. So Alice, right, her hand were up here. Okay, sorry, my drawing is not very good. And that is at 36, let's say, degrees Celsius, her body temperature. And the air conditioned bus, how cold, I'm not sure, maybe it was at maybe 25 degrees Celsius. Definitely cooler. So spectacles were cooler at this temperature. Spectacles were at a temperature of 35 degrees Celsius. When the hand touches the spectacles, what happened? The heat from her hand must have been conducted over to the spectacle, heating up the spectacles, bringing the temperature up higher than the surrounding temperature. So when they step off out of the car, there's less fogging on her spectacle. Now, what is fogging? Fogging is this thing whereby there's actually condensation. Those who wear spectacles will know when you step off an air-conditioned bus or car into your surroundings, your spectacles start to fog. That means you have condensation happening on your spectacle. So the spectacle actually is the cooler surface where the water vapor from the surrounding condenses on. So why is there less fogging on her spectacles? Remember, her spectacles is now warmer than Beatrice's spectacle. Her spectacles temperature was at the temperature of the air-conditioned car at 25 degrees Celsius. Now, remember, I do not know whether it's 25 or 18. I'm just giving a number that makes sense to me, and my air-conditioned room right now is about 25 degrees Celsius. Pretty cold. But because the hand touches the spectacle, the temperature might have gone up, maybe to 28 degrees Celsius or maybe to even 30 degrees Celsius. Because the spectacles would have gained heat from her hand. So the spectacle is warmer than her spectacles. So why is there less fogging on her spectacles? So this question is interesting. It gives you a claim. Okay, let's go through the CR, which is your claim, evidence, and your reasoning. The claim has been given. There is less fogging on Alice's spectacle. Claim has been given. The question claimed that there is less fogging on the spectacle. You are supposed to now give the evidence and the reasoning to get your 2 marks, right? C, E, and R. C has been given. So what's the evidence? So let's start with the evidence. Now, please don't write the word evidence here. I'm writing it here to help you to see it. Alice's spectacles were warmer than Beatrice's because it gained heat from her hand. And this will be the first 1 mark. That is your evidence. Her spectacles were warmer than Beatrice's because it gained heat from her hand. But so what? Because it's not sufficient to explain why there's less fogging. Now let's go to the explanation, which is now the reasoning. Fogging is about condensation, right? So now the explanation for the condensation part and the cooler surface part must come in. So why is it that it's less fogging? Her spectacles were warmer than Beatrice's because it gained heat from her hand. So Alice's spectacles were a less cooler surface than Beatrice's. So less condensation occurred on her spectacles. Let's go back to this. So evidence is her spectacles is at a higher temperature were warmer than Beatrice's because it gained heat from her hand. 1 mark. So what? So this is actually a less cooler surface. This is a more cooler surface than this. So if this is a more cooler surface, there will be more condensation here. So in other words, you can also answer from Beatrice's point of view. You can say that Beatrice's spectacles had more condensation because it was a much cooler surface than Alice's. My answer, I answer from Alice's perspective. Alice's spectacles were a less cooler surface than Beatrice's. So there were less condensation occurring on her spectacles. So why did it become clear again sometimes? The fog are actually tiny water droplets. So it became clear because once they step into the environment, the water droplet on the spectacles start to gain heat from the environment and evaporate. So the condensed water droplets on their spectacles gain heat from the surrounding and evaporated. Alright? The condensed water droplets on their spectacles gain heat from the surrounding and evaporated. Now, I'm sure some of your teachers may allow you to get your full mark, even if you just wrote down if you just written down what I'm going to underline, the water droplets evaporated. On their spectacles, evaporated. Your teachers might give you your full marks for this. Personally, I think it is a more complete answer when you talk about heat flow. Because for any part of the water cycle to happen, whether it's melting, freezing, condensation, evaporation, there must be heat flow. Without heat flow, there's no change in state. So since this is a change in state from liquid to a gas, from water droplet to water vapor, therefore, in my opinion, it is important to state the correct heat flow. Water droplets, liquid, gain heat, and evaporated to get the 1 mark. If you write this kind of answer, definitely it will be very safe. Okay? I hope this lesson helped you today. Take care. I'll see you in the next one. Goodbye.